All right, so we are going to now work on how to find the domain and range of continuous graphs. That means graphs that are not just points, but an entire kind of picture. It's got some lines or circles or angle-looking things like this, that type of thing. So the first thing you're going to do, again, is for the domain, remember those are your x's, okay, your x values. I picked a pen that didn't work. X values, okay, and your range are your y values. All right, so do your x values. We're going to scan your pencil from left to right on the graphs along the x-axis. Okay, so basically we're doing this kind of idea. So left to right, and so as long as you see a graph hitting your pen, that means it has an x value. Now keep in mind the arrow points that are here and here means that x keeps on going and graph keeps on going and going and going and going. Therefore, as I'm doing my x's, the x's are this graph is gonna, you can kind of imagine this line kind of keep hitting my pen, keep hitting my pen, keep hitting my pen, keep hitting my pen, and so on this way. So the domain is all real numbers. Okay, all real numbers. Y, we are going to do the range. You scan your pencil from top to bottom along the y-axis. Okay, so therefore you're going to do this way. And now the idea is, as long as a graph is hitting your pen, it's part of the range. As soon as so right here, if you notice, it's actually hitting at two spots. It's hitting over here and it's hitting over here as I scan down. So can you picture if these two arrow points are kind of going on forever? Okay, if I keep putting my pen up like this, I'm going to keep on continuously hitting my pen, my pen, my pen, my pen, my pen, my pen. All right, so it's constantly hitting here and over here, but it's still hitting my pen. So therefore, y is getting really, really, really big. But if I go the other direction, y is not unlimited. So when we get to a point like right there, once you get below that spot, there's no graph. So that means y can only get to this level here, all right? And then it doesn't exist. There's no graph. Okay, there's no graph that my pen is hitting. So this is -2. So in this point, -2 is the lowest point of the graph. So as long as y is greater than or equal to -2, it will exist in this graph. Okay? So that's how this works. So we are going to write all real numbers when it's everything. And then if it kind of has a stopping point, we do something like this. All right, so let's do that with this one. Domain, we have circles, so we don't have unlimited amounts of x's and y's here because the graph doesn't exist over here, over here, over here, over here. So we don't have unlimited. So, okay, so again, from left to right, along the x-axis. So the x-axis is here. So we're dragging our pen from left to right. And notice right here, I'm not hitting graph, I'm not hitting graph, I'm not hitting the graph. Bam, I hit the graph. And I keep hitting the graph, hitting the graph. Here I only hit it once. Here I've hit it twice, 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 once, and then none again. So x goes from this point here to this point here and then stops. So you're going to write down here what's called a compound inequality. It's going to be 3. It's an x, and it's allowed to be 3, so -3, excuse me. And then you're going to go all the way up to 3. That's just called a compound inequality. Okay. All this is saying is that I can be -3, and bigger all the way up to 3. So I'm kind of trapped between -3 and 3. And if you notice, y is doing the exact same thing. So again, if we were doing top to bottom, there's no graph here. And then when it hits 3, there's a graph of some sort hitting my pen, hitting my pen, hitting my pen, hits my pen. Now it doesn't hit my pen. So y is doing the same exact thing. So y, and again, you go from because the alligator, if you remember, he eats the bigger number, you always put the smaller number on the left and the bigger number to the right. And so again, y is doing the same thing x is doing. Okay? All right. The domain on this one, again, we're doing the domain, so we're going to test this. And remember that these arrow points, remember, means that this graph is going forever that way and forever that way. So the idea here is as I'm dragging my pen, there's always going to be a spot where my pen hits the graph. So therefore, that is all reals. And if I do the same thing here, my graph is going to hit this part of the pen over here. And as I slide it down, it's hitting it here. If I slide it down here, it's now hitting it right there, and so on. But it's going to continue to hit my pen in at least one spot every time. So this is also all reals. So when you have a line that has some sort of slope, you're always going to have both of these being all reals. Okay? If you had a vertical line like this, then in this case, x is only one number. So you'd say x equals, let's say this is x equals 2 line. You put x equals 2, and then the range would still be all real numbers. If it were a line going this way, then we have the opposite true. X can be anything you want, but y can only be whatever it's crossing over the y-axis, wherever that is. Say 3, so this would be y equals 3. All right, so let's try this one. Okay, so we're sliding. Remember that these arrows are going on forever. So therefore, as I'm sliding my graph, I'm still hitting the graph, hitting the graph, hitting the graph, 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 graph. Remember, it's not necessarily hitting here. It might be hitting way down here on my pen, but it's still hitting me as I'm sliding. Basically, as I'm sliding this way from up here, it's kind of hitting my pen at different spots as I slide, if you can imagine that. Okay, so the domain on this is all reals. Now I'm going to go this, and again, you can see if I slide all the way from top to bottom, there's no graph up here at all. Even if I extended these arrow points forever, I'm not going to get any graph up here. So that means it doesn't exist until I get to, looks like 4. And then it goes and hits my pen, hits my pen, hits my pen, hits my pen. It's hitting my pen in 2 spots every time, except for that one spot right there. It's only hitting once. It's going to hit twice, but it's still hitting, and that's the point. So in this answer will be as long as y is less than or equal to 4, because all of these values, this is, if you were to look at this point right here, just for instance. Okay, if I were to read that point and that point, this would be 2, 2, and this would be negative 2, 2. So y is 2. So as I'm sliding down this thing, the y values are getting smaller and smaller. Where you hit the x-axis, that's when y is 0, and then now y is negative. But that's what this means. I am allowed to be as high as 4, but then everything else is going to be lower than that. Okay? So that's how that works. So anything that's like a full-size shape, like a circle or a square or something like that, you're going to have a very small, limited thing. There's no forever. If you notice, there's no arrow points on here. There's arrows on here. There's arrows on here. There's arrows on here. There's no arrows on here. There's no arrows on here. I got some arrows on here as well. All right, so the domain on this one, again, when we're trying our x's, we're sliding this way. No graph, no graph, no graph. Bam, I hit the graph right here. And I keep sliding, 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 sliding. And then when I get to, looks like, 5, and then there's no graph again. Okay, so that means x has to be between, what's this number here? -1 and 5. Okay, when we do the range, again, no graph here, no graph, no graph, no graph, no graph. Bam, I hit the graph. My pen hits right here. So that's what, 3. And I'm going to keep on sliding, 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 sliding until I hit this point with my pen, which is -3. So in this case, y is between -3. Remember, you write the smaller number to the left. Left is less. You put the smallest number to the left and the bigger number to the right. Okay, so that's how that works. Okay, we got number 6. Okay, so these arrows mean we're going on forever and ever and ever. Okay, so my domain, again, my pen is going to keep hitting, even though right now if I were to extend this line, it's going to hit down here. As I slide, it's kind of hitting my, like I said, it's hitting my pen kind of higher and higher as I go. It's hitting, and then it dips down a little bit, and then it keeps hitting. Keeps hitting, keeps hitting, keeps hitting my pen, keeps hitting my pen. All right, so this is all reals. Now, be careful. This is a tricky question. All right, if I do Y's, if I do this, am I still hitting a graph? See how this is extended? I'm still hitting a graph. So this, and remember, this is keeping on going. So this is really very big here, very big here. It dips down, it comes back up again, and then dips back down again. But in the end, as I'm sliding, I'm still hitting points. So basically in this particular problem, Y can get forever big and Y can get forever small. This part doesn't matter. This is kind of a tricky question, but technically all of this is higher than this point, and all of this is lower than that point. So these don't matter in terms of your range. All right, so this is also going to be all real as well. Okay, all reals means everything. It means I get to use anything I want, any number I want. Okay, all right, so let's keep going. All right, we're at 11.5 minutes, so let's just keep going as quickly as we can with this. All right, so domain, remember we're testing here and here. Be careful, but I can, again, these arrows, you kind of have to visualize these are going on forever and ever. So as I slide my pen, there is graph, but it's way down here. Okay, so even if I started my pen over here, technically the graph is way down here. So it's still hitting my pen, always hitting my pen. And now, even if I keep sliding to the right, it's still gonna hit. It's hitting in different spots on my pen, but it's still hitting my pen, and that's the point. So this is gonna be all reals. Now Y's, again, don't be tricked because you see that this has a high and a low, because this is going forever big and this Y's are getting forever small. So this is still all real numbers. Okay. All right. This one, okay, domain. Now even if I extend these out, even off the page, okay, I am not going to ever hit my pen until I get to this spot right here, and that's -1 with the x's. So once it's -1, now I have a graph, forever a graph. So that means x has to be larger than or equal to -1. 0, 1, 2. If anything I test, I'm going to have a graph. Okay, the range. Now the range, again, if I'm sliding this all the way up here, this line is still hitting my pen. So it's hitting my pen, hitting my pen, hitting my pen, hitting my pen, hitting my pen. And you can see as I'm sliding, it's hitting my pen in different spots. Here it's hitting there. Now it's hitting over here. Now it's hitting over there. Now it's hitting here. Now it's hitting here. And so it's sliding up and down my pen, but it's still hitting. So this would be all reals. All right, last two. This one I kind of talked about on the front. Didn't know I had an example, but I'll make sure I now have it in writing. Okay, so when I do my domain on this one, there's no graph here, and there's no graph here, and there's only a graph right at this exact point. This is when x equals 2. Well, that's the only x you're allowed to pick from. There's no other x's, so x can only be 2. It's not an inequality, it's an equals. It's only getting to be 2. Y, on the other hand, if I'm sliding up from above, remember this is going on forever, I'm going to hit my pen all the way down. So this is all reals. Okay, last one. Okay, now if I do my x's, again, remember if you get confused, just kind of extend these arrow points out a little bit and slide with your pen from left to right. Okay, so I'm hitting. Remember that technically this arrow is out over here, is off the page. So I could start all the way over here and it would hit my line. It would hit my pen. I just didn't extend it. I'm not going crazy with that. So hits it, and keeps on hitting it. All right, so this is all reals. Now, when I do my sliding from above, no graph. Graph. No graph. Okay, so this is when y is -4. So in this case, y can only be one value, -4. Okay, so that's how that works. So you just have to practice a little bit, but the pen sliding is how this really does kind of help with the visual. After a while, you won't need to slide the pen at all. But for now, I would suggest to do that. All right, and that's it for the lesson.